Friends, welcome to this program on Introduction to E-Learning. What I will do, I will give you a basic foundational clarification to distance learning, the development so far, and an introduction to e-learning. And subsequently, we will in this program also present, in the series, we will also present the pedagogy, the design, the assessment strategies, the MOOCs and OERs, and so on and so forth. So this is a very foundational video for you to appreciate what e-learning is all about, vis-a-vis online learning or web-based learning. What you see on your screen is a very brief explanation to varieties of delivery strategies that we have today. We started with campus-based schooling and college and university education. The campus-based education, basically, as you all understand and appreciate, it's basically teaching learning is a contiguous physical interaction between teachers and students at the same place and the same time. And varieties of pedagogies which are available to other delivery strategies are also equally available to face-to-face education, and face-to-face education being combined today with technology, which is called a flipped classroom, is contributing to what is called a blended learning delivery strategy or blended teaching learning strategies. Vis-a-vis the on-campus learning, we have distance learning, which started through the initiation of correspondence courses, continued with distance learning, vis-a-vis online learning, and now blended learning because of technological developments. The basic idea behind distance learning is that it is largely a guided self-study which takes place at a distance, mediated by a varieties of media, possibly integrated, if not as supplementary media, complementary or integrated into teaching learning processes and teaching learning resources. And there is also a need for an occasional face-to-face interaction. Basically, like IGNOU, for instance, National Open University or British Open University, there are regional centers and learning support centers, and basically the interaction is a learning support center, which could be a face-to-face interaction, it could be a laboratory, it could be a workplace, it could be for internship, it could be field work also, and so on and so forth. Distance learning gradually contributed with the developments of the semantic web to what is called online learning. But basically, I would say online learning is a part of the larger framework of e-learning, electronic learning. Electronics learning started with any kind of digitization that started, which is either web-based or even non-web-based. A computer-mediated communication or computer-assisted learning is also called an e-learning. So online learning, because of the semantic web and developments of the web infrastructure and web frameworks today, I will show you a PowerPoint to you, which is leading to what is called an e-learning, within that online learning. E-learning is, as I've written there, use of ICT, any kind of information communication technology to enhance learning. And online learning is basically through the web or the internet. Now there is development in blended learning, mostly an American concept where face-to-face and online have been combined together, both within the classroom and also in online programs. Online programs taking up face-to-face interaction, and classroom taking up online resource support, online faculty support, and online other kinds of support, technology support, and so on and so forth. I will explain each one a little bit before I proceed to describe a little more about online learning or e-learning. Mobile learning, this is what is called an ubiquitous learning today, and many universities in the world, they are teaching through mobile technology, which basically combines the three technological developments in one platform, starting with broadcasting, leading to telecommunications, and finally computing. So broadcasting, telecommunications, and computing, all three joining together in a converged seamless converged platform called mobile platform. Mobile is, it's a handset, by the way, it's a phone, but because it is mobile with you, so therefore it is called mobile. It's no mobile, by the way, but then it is a handset. But then mobile technology combines a convergence of all the three technological developments, and the mobile handset in your hand or pocket represents or has the facility for broadcasting, telecommunication, as well as any kind of computational devices, depending on the configuration that you have in your mobile handset, including 4G or 5G network, including the web-based technologies available, and especially the broadband available to you. So friends, as you see on your screen, this is a PowerPoint I borrowed from Michael Power, which is an excellent explanation to how distance learning developed internationally. It started with the first generation correspondence courses with the postal system. Almost postal system is dead today, and in the COVID time, as of now, almost postal system is there. It is being replaced by, it has been in fact reflected by the courier system, but the post office and the postal system is almost non-existent today. But it started with the first generation old program learning materials and combined with occasional face-to-face interaction, almost delivered by the post, and a whole lot of technical skills were also taught by correspondence education. In fact, correspondence education was extremely popular in the erstwhile Soviet Union, and the Indian correspondence education developments in a way are direct contribution from the Soviet Union. And we had 3 teams of the University Grants Commission visiting Soviet Union and examining and starting the evening colleges and correspondence courses in this country, followed by the skill-based vocational education, including 10+2+3 system of education in this country. We had also 1962 at the University of Delhi started with correspondence education for the first time, and in the school sector 1964 onwards the School of Secondary Education, Boards of Secondary Education, and now there are National Institute of Open Schooling as well as state open schools available in this country, which led to a second generation open university development where multiple media, or in a way that was the beginning of the development of computing. So multimedia intervention, so mediated learning through varieties of media led to what is called distance education, and open university is synonymous with what is called distance education. It's open because it is open to place and time, to qualifications, to socioeconomic status, and so on and so forth. And it extends, it provides facilities for students by removing constraints to easily get into study through distance learning, though the quality is almost the same as is available some of the finest campus-based education system in this country and elsewhere. It led to a third generation where it was felt that we need a structure and a system and a network of supporting learners. So, and I will show a PowerPoint. There is a debate still continuing between independence and interaction, and independent study and mentoring support and interaction among the students. These two are foundational. So you can balance either you can increase independence, reduce interaction, or you can reduce independence, increase interaction. This is the third generation distance education, which led to a fourth generation with the advent of telecommunications, all kinds of including satellite conferencing, as we have an education satellite available in this country, uploaded from this very campus of National Open University, IGNOU, and many other countries have been using telecommunication facilities in varieties of different ways to support, to deliver content for interaction, to support learners, and even for assessment strategies. That is what is called a first generation of online learning. This is where the convergence started. As you would see here, this is where the convergence started, and the convergence led to more towards the development of online learning and what is called a blended learning today. Blended learning is a combination, in the American terminology, a combination of face-to-face and online learning, a judicious combination and a practical combination, a need-based combination of these, and where both synchronous, as it is going on right now, if I am directly connecting with you through teleconferencing, through telephone, or even web-based technology, where, like a Yahoo chatting, for instance, or something else, we are synchronous. If I'm sending you a message and an email, you study and later on respond, it's asynchronous. So synchronous and asynchronous. These are two strategies with online teaching and learning. And blended learning brings in face-to-face interaction, which is more hands-on, for instance, skill-based in a way, which is leading to a new concept of blended learning. But I will extend the concept of blended learning a little more subsequently. So friends, what you see here, that we also, in the process, there was a development, many of you might have seen a movie called Avatar, which used the first time a 3D, three-dimensional presentation, as if you feel that without an instrumentality available to you, you can directly, if your television set is 3D, your screen is 3D, you could feel that. And subsequently, in Second Life, many universities are presenting their entire program of study through Second Life, and which is developed through a software based on the, I understand, on the film's name Avatar, called Avatar software. So even a Second Life, the mobile-based learning, and a Second Life, which is called a 3D platform learning and the web-based learning, these two are revolutionizing side by side vis-a-vis the later developments of machine learning, learning and analytics, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence, all kinds of mind-boggling developments that have taken place these days. But what you see on your screen is that we started with wave 1, wave 2.0, wave 3.0. Now they are talking about we have already entered wave 4.0, for instance. So the blended learning is basically a combination of the three, as you see on your screen. There's a self-paced learning, self-learning, face-to-face learning, face-to-face interaction, basically for hands-on and practical experiences, and online collaborative learning. Collaboration 24/7 is possible through online. So these three joining together judiciously, depending on how you would like to design your curriculum. But these three, if they could be judiciously joining together, they'll be much more effective than any one independently as a delivery strategy or teaching learning strategy for the entire program. As you will see on your screen, blended learning is not only a combination of face-to-face and online learning, but also blending could be in learning outcomes and learning objectives, in the content design, in the design of activities that the students would like to engage in, different kinds of activities in teaching and learning, which is almost similar as in face-to-face as well as online, so also in blended or distance learning. Assessment strategies and portfolios and so on and so forth, blending is possible, and of course blending is possible in delivery strategies. So blending is not only a combination of face-to-face, a judicious mix of face-to-face and online, but also a blending for design, development, delivery and evaluation. Blending could be equally possible. There are a lot of research which is happening today which are facilitating us to consider different kinds of blending at the micro level, depending on the discipline area and depending on the subject that we are teaching. As I said earlier, that still the debate is going on that whether it is face-to-face and more so in online and e-learning or online learning, where we need to consider a judicious mix of independent study and interaction. Independent study is basically self-study by oneself, maybe these days with the help of open education resources, and making one's own individual interpretation, which is called meaning making, that individual construction of meaning. In interaction, there is a group work and a practical, and what happens in group work is that we discuss, debate, and we negotiate meaning. We try to understand each other's perspective and sharpen our understanding and meaning of the concept further. These two are also the issues for distance learning and more so for e-learning and especially online learning. These two need to be seriously designed vis-a-vis your own discipline subject area that you are teaching in online learning, and a lot more would depend that how you balance between independent study and interaction. Type of independent study and type of interaction would also are also needed to be considered. Friends, with this brief introduction, we are now entering into what is called e-learning. When you talk about e-learning and basically online learning, we need these 4 components that you see on our screen that we need to consider, and therefore we need to design. We need a learning management system, whether it is a proprietary like a WebCity or Blackboard or any other, or if it is open source. People used to use Sakai, a tutor, and so on and so forth. But these days, I think Michael's Moodle platform is the largest open source platform used all over the world. The University of South Pacific, where I went as a director, they were also using the Moodle platform, very versatile, and Michael Dogemas usually comes once in a year to improve, to reset and revise the Moodle platform. At IGNOU also we have the Moodle platform, besides the 4-quadrant approach that we are following of the National Swayam platform. We are also having a Moodle platform which is extremely versatile and which has all possibilities of engaging students and improving the quality of teaching and learning, especially the quality of student learning. So, learning management system. The second is the content, the digital content, which could be interactive, which could be static, which could be engaging, which could be networked, link-based, and so on and so forth. We need, including open education resources. The 3, that how to design interaction. That is very important because interaction, collaboration, engagement, and further reflection, these are extremely crucial in teaching and learning, which would determine the quality of learning, and especially in an online learning platform, these are possible more in a way that because these are 24/7, these are seamless, and these are more asynchronous, therefore provide possibilities of further reflection and meaning making by the students individually and in group interaction. And finally, there are immense possibilities of enhancing the diversity and the quality of assessment strategies and the assessment rubric that we have generally face-to-face, but which can be extended further with all kinds of online facilitation anywhere, anytime, any place. And seamless 24/7 assessment strategies are possible. Varieties are available. You can consult literature, Google them, study them free of cost. But then these 4 aspects, I repeat, the learning management system, your platform, the content, the interaction, and the assessment, they need to be designed in an e-learning context, or especially online learning context. Now, if it is design and development, these 5 areas that you need to consider. You need to design technology, you need to design pedagogy, you need to design content, you need to design interaction, and finally organization and management, including technology support to both teachers as well as students and to the system's operation. Insofar as pedagogy design is concerned, you need to consider the technical aspects, the social aspects, the epistemological aspects, how knowledge is generated, how knowledge is structured, how knowledge is presented, and so on and so forth, and cognitive aspect, especially how knowledge is being assimilated, is studied, is perceived, is viewed, is understood, and is finally assimilated by the students. And of course, teacher as a facilitator would facilitate doing that, including development of self-regulated learning abilities and higher order metacognitive skills. In pedagogy design, you could have learning contracts. It's basically an American concept. You can have a video or even live lecture. as it is going on right now. There could be self-study, which is called a self-directed learning, which is more focused on fundamental foundational learning outcomes. If there is a freedom, independence for the students to choose the learning outcomes and the pathways, learning pathways, the self-direction and motivation will increase more. There is possibility of collaborative learning, small group work, discussion, project, case study, portfolio, of course discussion forum, which is an important component of e-learning or online learning strategy. And mentoring, scaffolding is an integral part of that. As every stage of online learning, day by day, week by week, fortnight by fortnight, month by month. So these need to be considered in an e-learning or online learning. In content design, basically, there is a need to consider concept mapping for the entire design of the curriculum into courses, courses into units and modules, and so on and so forth. Once the concept map and content is decided, then one has to translate that into learning outcomes, because these days, especially University Grants Commission talking about outcome-based learning as a regulation, we all, under choice-based credit system, we all need to consider outcome-based learning. So concept mapping, the larger framework of the connection, the relationship of different concepts involved in that particular program, certificate, diploma, undergraduate or master's program, translated into learning outcomes, and resources which can be designated for different learning outcomes. And finally, which is most important, that how these learning outcomes vis-a-vis teaching and learning would be translating into actual outcomes based on learner engagement in activities. So therefore, learning outcomes, design of activities, and finally, assessing the learning outcomes vis-a-vis those activities. This is a very foundational, very simple, foundational, required, needed framework within which a good online learning, teaching and learning could operate. There is a need to design specifically the interaction. We have discussion forum available, Second Life, as I told you, both synchronous, asynchronous, synchronous. At the same time, different places could be. I will show you a PowerPoint on that. And generally, Google Groups use people. These days in COVID times, they've been Zooming or Googling, for instance, Google Meet and so on and so forth. But this could also be brought in to as a smaller fraction for interaction within a larger design of online learning. The types of interaction, as you see on your screen, that learner technology or learner interface or learner LMS or learning management system interaction, learner and content interaction, learner and teacher or mentor interaction, and learner interaction. These four kinds of interaction, you could still think of more. These four kinds of interaction need to be designed properly vis-a-vis depending on the topic you are teaching within your own discipline. As you see on your screen, the four kinds of interaction is possible. Self-paced learning online, self-paced learning offline, which is basically self-study, self-paced learning online, which is basically an individualized web-based learning framework within which an individual has a chunk available within the web platform or the learning management system for an individual interaction with the content and so on and so forth. Group-based learning synchronous, that they could chat, they could interact live at the same place, different places, same time, or group-based learning asynchronous, as I said, that teacher writes or throws a question in the discussion forum, students take a week to study that, to respond to, others would argue the case, for and against, interaction goes on, and in the process, reflective learning, it gets strengthened. The reflection leads to very high order learning, and therefore, as they say, Professor Donaldson's reflection in practice and reflection on practice, vis-a-vis reflection before practice and reflection after practice, continues as a continuous process, and asynchronous teaching and learning contributes more significantly to the quality of learning than, as I understand, synchronous learning. But both are equally important for insofar as online learning is concerned. And most important thing is that how a teacher would increase one's own presence, his or her own presence in an online platform. Because teacher is a facilitator. Unlike in a classroom where the teacher is lecturing, the teacher might do a lecture, as I'm doing right now. Teacher might do a lecture through video, maybe through conferencing or virtual class, which is live, same time. Teacher could do that, but there are many other ways that the teacher can engage and increase or enhance one's own presence and therefore contribute to quality of student learning. That teacher can contribute to interaction between students and students, student and teacher, and student and content. And varieties of knowledge tools are available to ensure that how a teacher is doing student, teacher, and student content interaction. Self-regulation is possible, that one can plan and monitor and regulate one's own learning, which is basically a self-directed learning. And there are strategies available which can get infused to the topic or design of your own discipline teaching. The strategies which are generally available, you can get hold of them, but these strategies need to be built into. What I understand is that we are doing less insofar as strengthening self-regulated learning and metacognitive abilities of the students. I think more than face-to-face learning, online teaching and learning, there are instrumentalities available which could facilitate students to do that. One can enhance motivation with the self-efficacy and competency, intrinsic motivation as well as intrinsic evaluation of the students. With problem-based learning, discovery learning, more reflective learning, that the student project-based learning, for instance, that the portfolio-based learning, case studies, that the students would increase their internal intrinsic motivation more with self-evaluation themselves. If it is a group evaluation, then they would critique each other's work and they would also equally learn better and more. Collaboration is certainly possible, and positive interdependence, individual accountability, interaction and elaborated explanations are possible, which a distance teacher could consider. How to support e-learners? There are 4 kinds of support that I have written here, which are extremely crucial based on our own experience in offering online learning, teaching and learning. Information technology support is extremely essential to both teachers as well as students. There can be an information center, a help desk or a call center, 24/7 support is needed. Sometimes the professor or the teacher who is teaching online can take care of some of the technological interventions and facilitations, but there is a need for a technology support center which would facilitate the professors as well as students seamless 24/7, which is possible. And we generally people do, and therefore we need to do that. The second is metacognitive support through web resources, online strategies, intellectual property, community building, community of practice building online, which is an extremely important area of research today, that how to develop community of practitioners. And therefore, a teacher could facilitate doing these. There are library resources which the students can get access to, and which are very selective, guided by the teacher or the mentor, and therefore the students do only access and study those resources. Otherwise, plenty of web resources are available, but they need to be authenticated by the teacher or the mentor, and the teacher's role is extremely crucial here. And finally, online counseling, online resources, interaction, coordination and management. These are extremely essential in online teaching and learning, and these need to be designed. So finally, friends, insofar as assessment strategies are concerned, there are a lot more assessment strategies which are possible online than what we can think of in classroom or campus-based learning contexts. You can do a computer marked assignment, a tutor marked assignment, which can be online or which can be synchronous at the same point of time they would respond to, or which can be asynchronous. They will be sent through email or whatever in an online communication or a Dropbox or whatever, Google Drive or whatever facilitation mechanisms. If an institution has a mechanism which can be either cloud-based or an institution protected website, whatever the strategy the institution decides, the computer marked and tutor marked assignments are extremely essential. discussion forum which is live and which is generally asynchronous and which contributes significantly to engagement in activities. Discussion forum is not only to pen and paper writing, there are a lot more activities which can be built into the discussion forum, and therefore this would contribute significantly to higher order learning because they are basically or generally more reflective. So reflective learning would enhance higher order learning towards metacognition and increased self-regulation. Interaction in the community of practice. Community of inquiry and community of practice, these two need to be studied very carefully by you. These two are very scientific strategies. A lot of research are happening on this. These two are basically scientific strategies which need to be designed properly, which will enhance the quality of student learning experiences and their quality of learning and their meaning making and therefore quality of assimilation and further application, because any learning which doesn't lead to direct application, hypothetical or real or authentic, is very important. It doesn't contribute to much high quality learning, and these need to be considered very carefully. I think authentic assessment is extremely essential insofar as high quality learning is concerned. Application in context, learning in context, and application in context, which is more authentic. So authentic tasks and activities and authentic assessment strategies are crucial in contributing to quality of learning. Of course, online presentations, online individual as well as group projects are possible. E-portfolio is an important consideration for all of us, all of you, that we need to consider. Cases, portfolios are extremely essential, or any other strategy that you can think of. So friends, thank you very much. I have given you a very brief, a rudimentary introduction to e-learning, within which focused more about online learning, starting from face-to-face education, correspondence education, distance education, e-learning, which is now more blended. So an exclusive e-learning or online learning is not working anymore generally. So therefore, people are considering design of blended learning strategies in either face-to-face context in a flipped classroom type of situation or even in exclusive online learning. A combination of self-study, face-to-face, more of workshops and hands-on experiences, and online, which is more collaborative, networked learning. So friends, thank you very much indeed.